So in 2025, the PTE CORE exam has begun using AI algorithms to assess your response and eventually give you your mark. So today we'll work on how to use the AI algorithm in your advantage so that you can get a 90 out of 90 in the writing section. Because the algorithm is best at assessing and analyzing your response, we're going to focus on 3 primary areas: summarize a written text, summarize a spoken text, and the email writing, which only has a 100-word limit, which means you need to be very concise when writing it. Areas we won't focus on in the video is fill in the blanks and writing from dictation because they are yes or no answers. So as long as you get the question right, the AI processing is not really assessing your response. It's just saying yes or no. The first thing we are going to follow is answering the question in full. So having a logical flow and making sure it is complete. We'll focus there on the email writing because that is one of the hardest sections. The other 2 areas are very important: grammar and syntax, and vocabulary and spelling. Here, an examiner might miss your grammatical structures, or they might not be counting how many simple sentences you have because they are marking pretty efficiently and pretty quickly, so they are not catching all. But the AI algorithm will catch everything. So towards the end of the video, I will give you some structures to follow, some templates that will be helpful as you jump into the writing section. Let's start focusing on the relevance and the completeness of your answer. So number 1 is answering the question in full. People struggle with this area for a variety of reasons. Either they are not addressing the question in full, they are not understanding or analyzing the question properly, or they include too much unnecessary details, which therefore waste space, and it makes you seem not concise in your answer. So we're going to heavily avoid filler words. Let's take a look at writing off topic. So for example, if your email response looks something like this: you recently purchased a laptop online, but when it arrived, you noticed that it was not the model you ordered. Additionally, the laptop had some scratches on the surface. Write an email to customer service department of the company explaining the issues. Now, you really need to include the following, of course: describe the problem, request a solution, and express your expectations politely but firmly. Now, the most logical way to go about this is to do it in the same order it appears in the question. You would start with the problem, the solution, and you would express a polite but firm expectation. But there's more to that. So here we have an example from one of our students who didn't score as well as they wanted to in the writing section, writing an email. They only had 100 words, but I can see that they kind of wasted space and they didn't exactly address the question as much as they needed to. So first they said, I recently ordered a laptop from your website due to an urgent need. While this might sound like a great opening sentence, it contains irrelevant information. So that takes away 4 to 5 words out of your 100-word count. The website due to urgent need was not stated in the question, therefore it is not needed. They found out that it was the wrong model. Okay, that's good. There's scratches and it was disappointing. We have 1 compound sentence, but we can do better. As we go into the second paragraph, I noticed that the student contained information that just was completely irrelevant to the question, and that is why they lost some marks. They said it was a high-quality, fast laptop. Good, but again, not necessary. It was not mentioned in the prompt. So this is where they lost some marks. They also didn't address the second prompt, request a solution. Instead, they said, I request a solution, either a replacement or a refund. While this sounds like they requested something, they left it very vague and too open. It is not direct, it is not firm, and it is not answering exactly what type of request they would need. So this type of question would get you decent marks, but it's not going to get you a 90 out of 90. Now, let's see how we can fix this. After revisiting this question with our student, we came up with a response that was much better and it would get them a 90 out of 90 on the PTE writing section. They started off with a very good sentence, a complex sentence. I recently purchased a laptop, order 12345, but upon receiving it, I noticed that it was not the model I had ordered. So here they address most of the question in the very first sentence. It is concise and it uses a good, strong sentence structure. Additionally, okay, we're starting with strong vocabulary. The laptop has visible scratches. Right in the first paragraph, we have answered nearly all of the opening questions. Then they use good vocabulary like pristine, and they are way more specific on their request or their solution. Please advise on the process to obtain the proper model which was originally ordered. There's not a question about refund or return. They just directly say, I want the proper model. Please send that to me. Thank you for your prompt attention on this matter. So overall, this was a much better response. But the student used their space wisely. They used the 100 words to be far more concise. The second thing that we have noticed becoming more important in 2025 is grammar and syntax. Previously, the examiner was not exactly counting how many simple sentences you have. But now it's very easy for the AI algorithm to catch if you have too many simple sentences, if you're using the wrong subject-verb agreement, or if you're just not showing a high level of proficiency through your grammar. Examples of simple sentences look like this related to the PTE CORE exam. Could you please confirm when my order will be delivered? I'm writing to inquire about the position of the marketing manager. And furthermore, while these are good sentences, I'm going to give you a format so you know exactly how many simple sentences you can use in 2025. You're going to aim for 30% of your response to be simple sentences. That might be 1 or 2 sentences maximum. 40% should be a complex sentence because it does show advanced grammar. It shows that you have a high level of proficiency in the language. And only 30% will be compound sentences to create natural flow. The compound sentences can be combined with transitional words, and that will bring up your logical flow and bring up your completeness of writing the answer. Now, quick tip, if you're writing an email, you likely have space for only 5 to 6 sentences. So what we're going to do is simply break that down into 2, 2, and 2. 2 simple sentences, 2 compound sentences, and 2 complex sentences. Let's take a look at an example so you can see what it really looks like. Dear manager, then we start with a simple sentence. I cannot attend my appointment tomorrow. We move into a complex sentence. I have an urgent work meeting that I cannot postpone, which conflicts with the scheduled time. Since I value this appointment, I would like to reschedule it at your earliest convenience. That's a compound sentence because we have an independent clause and a dependent clause. The dependent would be, since I value this appointment. And you'll notice here that they also started with the transitional word, since. Then into our next paragraph, we can use the exact same format. Simple sentence, could you kindly suggest an alternative date? Then we have a complex and a compound sentence. I appreciate your understanding. I look forward to your response. So we've used this format with a lot of our students, 2, 2, and 2. Keep in mind that sometimes you only have space for 5 sentences. So what you would want to do is only use 1 simple sentence, 2 complex, and 2 compound. And that would trigger the AI algorithm to show you have a variety of sentence structures. When you're practicing at home, write your response. Make sure you have 2, 2, 2, or 1 simple, 2 compound, 2 complex sentences. The next area is our final space that we have noticed where the AI algorithm is doing a better job at analyzing your score than a human examiner. And what I mean by better is that it's a little bit harder because it can assess you more strictly, more intensely. That is with our vocabulary and our spelling. So in vocabulary, we're also thinking about our range and our accuracy. Does this vocabulary seem topic specific? Now, I want to talk about spelling for a minute. Spelling has always been important, but you will lose 1 mark for each spelling mistake. So what that means is if you have 5 spelling mistakes in your response, you are going to lose 5 marks. So you cannot get the maximum score if you even have 1 spelling mistake. That's why it is hugely important. When you write the exam, it's not going to have a blue or red squiggly line underneath it, so you need to be practicing spelling at home. If you have words that you commonly misspell, like convenience or receipt, and if you're worried about using those words, just don't use it. Find a synonym to replace that word because you don't want to risk yourself making a spelling mistake on the exam. The other area for vocabulary and spelling is using a lot of diverse vocabulary. We really need to move away from using simple, basic words like good, bad, big, and small, because these will not give you any marks, and in fact, it'll show that you don't have a diverse vocabulary range. So our goal here is to expand our personal vocabulary and look for synonyms. So I put together a list of commonly used verbs that can be used in the summarize a written text or the email, or even summarize a spoken text. All the time we're going to see these verbs like ask, say, tell, give, help. And if you use it more than once, it's not going to give you more marks. In fact, it'll reduce your marks in the exam. So we should be familiar with synonyms like request, inquire, seek. So take a screenshot of this table and make sure that you study these commonly used synonyms for basic words in the exam. And the final area that's related to our spelling and vocabulary is having topic-specific vocabulary. Now, you could spend years looking at PTE Core Exam textbooks or even IELTS textbooks or any of the other English vocabulary textbooks and make sure that you are proficient in all areas. Or what you can do if you don't have years to study that is take a look at the most used topics that are in the writing section for PTE Core Exam. Let's take a look at 4 that come up all the time, and you can guarantee you'll see this on your exam. The first one is about community and social issues. Here, you'll need vocabulary addressing declining population or local programs. You'll need vocabulary to suggest improvements for community events, and you'll also need vocabulary to express your concerns about neighborhood development. So if you're not familiar with these topics, go ahead, research them online, find synonyms for community improvements, local developments, for population, or more. The next one is customer service interactions. This frequently comes up in write an email. You're going to either request a refund or replacement for a defective product, like we did today. You may have to provide feedback or service, and you might have to inquire about products or services. So this type of vocabulary is related to products and services. Nearly every PTE Core exam has something about educational context. So you're either going to ask for information about a course or a program, provide feedback on instructional methods, or look for enhancements in programs. Workplace condition is usually about apologizing for a meeting or a proposal or requesting information about a new event in the workplace. You might be inviting colleagues to a professional event or addressing policies and concerns. These types of emails and responses are going to be formal. So you want to understand how to formally introduce your request and also how to make a good sign off at the bottom of your email. When it comes to spelling and vocabulary, I have one amazing tip that is going to save you a lot of marks. At the end of your writing section, you should always give yourself a minute or 2 minutes to proofread. When you are proofreading it, read it backwards. Read it backwards from the last word all the way to the first word. Why? This is where you're going to catch your spelling mistakes, and this is where you're going to see if you used words repeatedly or too often. The reason we do it backwards is because it tricks your mind into focusing on each word at a time. The problem is most people read their response once from start to finish, and of course it looks good because you had just written it. So you're not catching those mistakes like you would with a fresh pair of eyes. So our final takeaway, in order to get a 90 out of 90 on the PTE CORE exam using the AI algorithm in our advantage, is to thoroughly understand the question first. Use a variety of sentence structures using the 30, 40, 30% rule. Simple, complex, compound sentences. Be sure to expand your vocabulary using topic-specific vocabulary and using synonyms for commonly used verbs or even nouns, but verbs are easier. Make sure that you have a logical flow using transitional words. Follow the format with an introduction, a body paragraph, and a conclusion. And check your spelling, check your vocabulary backwards before you go on to the next section. So if you're hoping to get a 90 out of 90 on the writing section for the PTE CORE exam, this video gave you 3 really solid tips in order to do that, as well as some examples. If you find this information helpful, or if you want to check out more videos from our page, which we upload every week, click the buttons down below to like this video and subscribe to the channel. You could also go directly to our channel and look for a video in an area that benefits you the most. If speaking is your lowest mark, check out our speaking videos. If reading or listening is your lowest mark, we have tons of videos with tips and strategies on how to boost your score, specifically for 2025, because this is a new era of PTE CORE exam. I'm Scott from HZad Education. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.